Previously on Blue Collar Den. Sorry, he had what? I'm sorry, we're going where?
Would you like a small, medium, or large?
Developed a nasty habit of getting ear infections. The unseen damage was done. I would have troubles listening to the teachers. I often misheard conversations in the dining room. Melissa, you need a hearing test. Results? My hearing was perfectly fine, but it wasn't. And now, the conclusion. I was casually watching videos on YouTube when on the video I was watching, the person mentioned they had a processing disorder. So out of curiosity, because I didn't know what a processing disorder was, I looked it up. And that was the ticket to all of my problems. There were 3 processing disorders that I studied: visual, sensory, and auditory. And I clicked on the auditory processing symptoms, and suddenly everything made sense. The symptoms listed are difficulty following multi-step or complex directions, difficulty multitasking in auditory situations like listening and taking notes, spelling, reading, and writing issues, lack of music appreciation, problems with the ability to localize the source of a signal, difficulty following conversations on the telephone, difficulty following directions, difficulty with rapid or accented speech, difficulty following long conversations, difficulty learning a foreign language or technical information where language is novel or unfamiliar, social issues, and difficulty reading others' pragmatic communication issues, or problems organizing at home, work, or other environments, problems with filtering speech when there's other people talking, problems filtering out background noises. I fit almost all of these. The only ones that really didn't fit were lack of musical appreciation, because I love music, and I am musically talented myself with playing piano, clarinet, and taught myself guitar. However, this explained why I preferred music with no lyrics. Spelling, reading, and writing issues. While affected, my spelling is about average, my reading is average, and my writing is messy but legible. And localizing a signal usually can do that without much fuss. After this revelation, I found an auditory clinic and signed myself up to be tested for auditory processing disorder. There were 2 tests I could do: a behavioral test, where my history is given and general auditory tests are taken, and an electrode test, essentially using electrodes to track my brain. I chose behavioral for budgetary reasons. While doing the test, I felt like I was succeeding in most of the tests involving hearing, which got me worried that maybe this wasn't the problem after all. Some tests were difficult, like there was this one hearing test where they would tell you a different number in each ear at the same time, and you had to say what those numbers were. Eventually, they would be in succession of 6 numbers, and a lot of them I could not repeat because I just could not remember them. Another test was when the audiologist was checking out my ears and did a pressure test on my eardrums. I could feel the pressure in my ears as the pressure pushed and pulled on my eardrum. And then she said, "Oh, you've had a lot of ear infections as a kid, didn't you?" "Yeah." "You can tell just by looking at my ear?" "Oh yeah, your eardrums are floppy." When she used an instrument that used air to push and pull at my eardrums, she noticed that my eardrums moved way more than they should have. Those chronic ear infections caused my eardrums to become more flexible. She then said, "Do you have pressure issues?" For years, I've had to equalize the pressure in my ears by plugging my nose and blowing. I'm sure many of you have done that when you've had plugged ears, or went on an airplane. Not doing that makes my ears feel really funny. I had permanent negative pressure behind my eardrums, and this may be something I have to do for the rest of my life. After the test, she told me that although I did well with many of the hearing exams, she could tell that I was still struggling. Then she told me of an experimental test that she wanted to do and that she needed guinea pigs for. I signed up. A couple months later, the day of the experiment came, and I was invited to have lunch with her and other top-end audiologists from all over North America. After lunch, I sat in a room with electrodes put on my head and earbuds in my ear. All I was told to do was watch Netflix on your phone and sit here for about an hour. So I began watching Avatar: The Last Airbender on my phone while I heard in one ear a rapid succession of mechanical voices repeating ba, da, and ga. This went on for over an hour before I was free to go. Then in the middle of September, I was invited back to the audiologist clinic to see my results. She finally confirmed it, and I'm here to announce it to everyone here on YouTube. I have central auditory processing disorder. So what exactly is central auditory processing disorder? People with this disorder have normal hearing, like my 2 hearing tests concluded, but the brain has trouble processing speech. The brain has trouble telling the difference between similar sounds and words, making sense of what is said to them, focusing on one conversation among other conversations, blocking out background noise, and knowing where a sound is coming from. It's not an intellectual disability. It's not autism spectrum disorder. It's not attention deficit hyperactive disorder or bad behavior. But auditory processing disorders can be more present in adults and kids with autism and ADHD. The cause in adults can range from genetics, head trauma like a concussion, medical issues like tumors, or chronic ear infections. In my case, it was most likely my untreated ear infections that ultimately caused my problems. So thank you, doctor. But there is a possible link to genetics. And since learning of this, my dad has mentioned that he has had similar problems too. While it is not an intellectual disability, it is on the spectrum of learning disability, as it does affect your ability to learn, of course, with the aspect of listening, following instructions, and for some individuals, reading. So yes, I technically have a learning disability. So where can I go from here? Well, I'm 27. There's not much they can do for me. My audiologist suggested some training that I can try to improve some aspects of my hearing, like with better skills when talking on the phone, for example. However, this is something I'm going to have to deal with for the rest of my life. There's no surgery or training that can truly fix my problem. And since there's a small chance my condition is genetic, there's also a chance that Rubel or any of my kids could have it too. And if it's not genetic, they could get it from chronic ear infections, which as of this recording, Rubel has not had an ear infection. So editing, Lissa, by the time this video is uploaded, has Rubel had any ear infections yet? So now you, the audience, you could be wondering, do you also have a processing disorder? If any of these symptoms I listed sounds familiar, do more research and see if it does seem like you struggle with these things. And if you're convinced you do, then find an audiologist that specializes in CAPD and find out if you have it. There are other types of processing disorders too, so feel free to research all of that too. I hope that if through this video you discover you have a processing disorder, that you'll be able to find ways of properly dealing with these issues. It was too late for me, but there might be time for you.